what's been my passion, working with people around this transition to the retirement years, second stage of life, and to do it with intention and consciousness so that it's not by default. And where you live, how you live, who you live with is such a big component of that.
So for so many folks, we stumble into transitions. We don't plan for them. And we all have experience as we get older in managing transition. But I find there's a mindset that I know that you talk about a lot, which is an ageist mindset, really. That somehow that we get older, we can't handle transitions as well as we did when we were younger. Or change. It's just too hard to change. I don't want to learn something new. Right. I'd love to hear your thoughts about that crazy misnomer that is so far from true.
Well, it really is an ageist myth. As we get older, we actually can get better with transitions. Think about what have been major transitions you've had. Do you have more trouble with the ending, with the period of unknown, or with the new beginning? Some people have trouble with none of that. Some people have trouble with all of it and some parts of it. It's helpful, though, to recognize that, the older you get, the more experiences you've actually had with transition, and the more you learn to control the parts you can, because there's certainly parts we can't control.
So let's use that to pivot to the second component, which is being alone more than we used to is becoming a phenomenon actually across the ages. So we're having an experience as a culture where we have a lot more solitary time than we ever have. And we don't have to go out to engage with people. We can call them, text them, FaceTime them. There's all ways that we can connect, but we don't actually have that physical presence of someone in our lives. So I'd love to hear you talk a little bit about what you've learned around the impact of social isolation, and let's tie it into housing, that there are a lot of folks who are living alone, or they're used to growing up having a lot more people around, and now just due to life circumstances of getting older, they are by themselves.
Right. And it's really an epidemic, and it's important to just recognize that, when you think about it, when you're working or if you are active parenting, you have a community. There's usually social connection. You have a reason to get out of bed in the morning. You get connection, you get an engagement, you have purpose and meaning, and, a sense of self-esteem. And so if you're no longer working or not working in the same way, or if your kids have left and you have the quote, as you mentioned earlier, the empty nest, it's important to try to figure out how to build in some structure in your life so that you have connection, engagement, purpose, and meaning. And what happens all too often is it's very easy to get isolated. So many people say they want to age in place, but it can be very, very isolating. And that's where I think, programs like Silver Nest can be really helpful, where, if you happen to have a home and, there are people who need a place to live, it can be a wonderful opportunity of trying to get like a roommate or a housemate to be able to live together or share homes in some way. Where are you going to find your community? And living situation provides community in a major way. And I am a believer, particularly if you're by yourself, that it becomes important to think about either, do you have a home that can be shared? Can you connect with other people and share in a home, or can you perhaps live in a community where you live becomes part of your community? Social isolation is deadly. Social isolation can lead to drinking, it can lead to depression, it can lead to drug abuse, and there's studies, that highlight that, and that can happen with too much alone time. So where you live, how you live, who you live with becomes so important.